going live in 3, 2, 1. All right, so they're saying that Iran is trying to go in a fast track to get to nuclear weapons no matter what they have to do. And actually, this makes a whole lot of sense considering some of the breaking news from today. Now, in today's show, there's going to be breaking news that you most likely have not heard yet. Huge, or I should say huge, things are happening right now, including the U.S. and Donald, our president, saying that we are most likely going to be taking over the Gaza Strip. This is a giant deal. You're talking about not only soldiers there, but the United States having land there in the middle of the Middle East. Now, I just talked to this submariner, somebody who is just got on their leave and they're home for a little bit and couldn't talk about anything other than, some things, because when they're on the sub, they can't tell you where they are, right? And essentially, I said, hey, are we going to go to war with China, do you think? And he said, no, I don't think so. We're preparing for that. We're preparing for war with China and Russia. He goes, but we are going to war in the Middle East. And I said, haven't we always been at war? But again, that is the thought of somebody who is currently, stationed on a submarine. And I thought, why doesn't everybody talk about China? Well, it makes sense now, a few days later, looking at all of this. Yeah, this totally makes sense that the Middle East is about to be on fire. Think about this. If we have land over there, Iran is probably not too happy. And they're saying that they want to get to nuclear weapons faster, cruder, however they can. New intelligence about Iran's nuclear program has convinced American officials that a secret team of the country's scientists is exploring a faster, if cruder, approach to developing an atomic weapon if Tehran's leadership decides to race for a bomb, according to a current and former American official. The development comes even amid signals that Iran's new president is actively seeking a negotiation with the T-Man administration. Of course, the intelligence was collected in the last months of the JB administration, then relayed to President Trump's national security team during the transition of power, according to the officials who asked for anonymity to discuss the sensitive details. So basically what they're saying is that all of this information could have been totally thrown up into a salad blender because it was done during JB's administration. All of these things have now changed. And is it all based off of the fact that T-Man was coming in and that he's totally going to run it differently? Because now it totally makes sense with what he's already done. Did they have intelligence of what he was about to do when he got into office? Did he murmur some of the things he was going to do the second he got into office? The things that he didn't publicly say. Because this is a response that makes a whole lot of sense because of today's news with the Strip. We're talking about the U.S. saying, yep, this is basically going to be a territory of the U.S. right here. And again, you're probably thinking, well, what did Netanyahu think about this? Netanyahu sat right next to him and said, I think this is a good idea, that this has a lot of benefits possibly. We need to explore this. So something big is about to happen. I can assure you that. We're going to cover this and so much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. Remember, you have a full website, full bibliography attached to every episode at marfooglenews.com. If you don't have time to stay today, then make sure to watch the replay, because today is one that you do not want to miss. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest.
Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We have a lot more to go over. Just remember, you have the full bibliography over on marfooglenews.com, where you have a source list. So if you're wondering, where the heck did they get that? And, where's this from? Yeah, there is some breaking news today, so the link's over there. If they're not there yet, will be there by the end of the show. And if you have breaking news for us while we're live, we are live. So that means we probably won't be able to look at what is happening this second. So if you have breaking news, make sure to drop it into the chat or email adam@marfooglenews.com or dex@marfooglenews.com or CC us both. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
This is huge. The president just said a kill switch. Again, is exactly what some think it is. We're going to talk about that here today and so much more. So, again, not an episode you want to miss. And then Trump reinstates maximum pressure campaign against Iran. So, Dex, do you want to go over what maximum pressure even means?
Yeah, certainly. So he has signed or unveiled an executive order reinstating the maximum pressure, as he calls it, campaign against Iran. He said he was torn on signing the order and admitted he was unhappy to do it, noting that the executive order was very tough on Iran. He said, hopefully we're not going to have to use it very much, but the order instructs the Treasury Department to execute maximum economic pressure on Iran through a series of sanctions aimed at sinking its oil exports. So if you guys remember, throughout his campaign, he talked a lot about how when he was in president before, he had sanctions against Iran and basically made them broke. They couldn't make any money. They didn't have any money to fuel all of the activities that they were doing with these terror cells and organizations around the globe, or specifically around the Middle East, but also around the globe for that matter. And by eliminating their funds, it, created a level of peace in the region. So it sounds like he is going directly back to that. And I would imagine this is a negotiation stance to start with this strong and heavy hand, just like he's done with Canada, just like he did with Mexico and he's doing with China, to then move towards the negotiation phase that we've heard Iran wants to have conversations with, potentially, getting to a better place with the U.S.
And as they said that the new Iranian president, and just even think about that word, the new Iranian president, the old one, wasn't the old one in a helicopter crash? Or was that the new candidate that was going to take the place of the, I get it confused because the old president was taken out in a strike, right? Or was that the candidate? Somebody perished in a helicopter flight. Oh, that's right. It was the old president who perished in a mysterious helicopter crash, and they said that there was weather. The community said, it wasn't weather enough to crash. Everybody had questions about that. At the same time that Israel was saying that they took out not only the candidate, but the guy behind him and the guy behind him. So whoever this is, I wouldn't doubt that they're trying to say like, hey, yeah, I'll work with you. But is the Ayatollah going to back that up? See, the Ayatollah makes the real decisions. The president is a front man, basically the poster boy for the country, right? But, and as far as a personal matter, if you were the Iranian president, wouldn't you be like, yeah, I want to do a deal? Especially knowing how the last president and the last presidential candidate, all of them, how they fared with the U.S. and with Israel. Dex, this new president, they said he wants to negotiate, but what does that even mean?
Well, certainly. I mean, look, they negotiated with Obama and they got stacks of cash, right? So we'll have to see. But I think the main point is he's willing to put these heavy sanctions on them and starve them for cash basically eliminating their biggest moneymaker, which is the oil. So if that's in place, as of right now, the negotiations are coming from a position of, hey, we would like to get our money back. And certainly that would be what they would be looking for.
And speaking of which, he has set an order, and this sounds very, very familiar. And it's familiar because we covered something very close to this with Kim Jong-un. Now, not trying to compare the two, but Kim Jong-un set an order, essentially said, if the U.S. takes out anybody in the structure underneath me, or if I even smell that they're trying to take me out, Kim Jong-un, that we will launch nukes their way, right? That it is basically a kill switch. If I'm gone, then so are you, kind of thing, right? Well, that's exactly what Donald just did. He says he's given advisors orders to obliterate Iran if anything happens to him. If anybody tries to take out the Don, if some kid at a rally, happens to shake the hands of every FBI member and it's like, oh yeah, where do I go? Up here? Wait, you have a ladder for me? Wow, I thought I had to climb a pipe or something. Thanks, guys. Right over here? I go right over here? Oh, I have to go there. The only roof across the street? Okay, sure. And nobody's going to take me out until afterwards, right? Okay, good. Because that other guy, he kind of winked at me after he shook my hand. Wait, you know exactly where he's going to be golfing even though nobody else does? Oh, okay, yeah. Which bush? Third bush to the left. Got it. Third bush. Not the President Bush, right? Just kidding. Okay, we're going to take him out now. So basically, he's trying to prevent that from happening. And in this case, he is saying that he is going to obliterate Iran. He is going to send nukes their way. At least that's the idea that we have in our head when we think of obliteration. It's as if they did that, they would be obliterated. Trump said in exchange with reporters while signing an executive order calling for the U.S. government to impose maximum pressure on Tehran. It says, I've left instructions that if they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. So I think he pretty clearly said, like, if you take me out, we'll take you all out. Federal authorities have been tracking Iranian threats against the president and other administration officials for years. And, of course, T-Man ordered the 2020 taking out of Qasem Soleimani, who led the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force. A threat on T-Man's life from Iran prompted additional security in the days before a July campaign rally in Pennsylvania, where, of course, he was had a bullet go right through his ear, according to the U.S. officials. But officials at the time said that they did not believe Iran was connected to that assassination attempt. Yeah, probably a pretty good guess, right? But again, that one was very, very fishy. The Justice Department announced in November that Iranian to take him out before the presidential had been thwarted. The department alleged Iranian officials had instructed Fahad Shakari, 51, in September to focus on surveilling and ultimately taking out Donald. Shakari is still at large in Iran. So there is still a guy out there that wants to take him out, and they said they haven't really found him. Iranian officials at the time dismissed the allegation, with Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai calling the report a plot by Israel-linked circles to make Iran-U.S. relations more complicated. Whichever way you take it right now, things are very, very confusing, and especially if you are just basing it off of what they're telling us. Really, you have to kind of go with your gut on what's going to happen right now, but I have a feeling that it doesn't matter who actually got the presidency, that we are on our way towards a full-scale World War III. And this World War III is not the end of the world. It's not like out of the movies. This World War III will end up choosing the powerful countries for the next 60, 70 years, or maybe less than that, maybe 20 or 30 years. That the next war will not only bring in a new order to things and a new monetary system and things like that, but it will also bring in a whole new system as far as who is in power, who is not. And it might not be the war that puts that into place. It might be the solution to the war, or the closing, or the finishing of the war that does so. But that's just my opinion. What is yours? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, as far as saying you're going to be obliterated if you take me out, that's a pretty big deal in most people's books. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace if you haven't already. This is a great service. It's very easy to do from a telehealth appointment on your couch. You can actually get yourself a kit with all of the most prescribed antibiotics all in a handy bag that you can zip up, and you can even add things to. There's a whole list of additives like albuterol, emergency inhalers, and of course fluconazole and other things that people, again, are either dependent on or need in an emergency situation and don't have on hand. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace and look up the Jace case for that. But there's also another service they provide which is extremely handy, especially if you are dependent on the big farm in the sky here. Some of these things people may debate that, you shouldn't even be on them, or you should be drinking lemon juice and water. But again, the truth is you probably have family members that are dependent on one of these medications. With Jace Daily, you can actually get a year extended supply of all of your medications. So 12 months of your medication that you can rotate into your current supply. That way you will always, from whatever day, so on next Thursday the world goes to crap, you will have a year of your medications to have and to know that you have them. Any kind of instigation between us and any country, if we do have an event here in the United States, most likely it would be either an EMP, which would knock down our grid, which would knock down our hospitals and possibly all of our pharmacies, or in other circumstances, which Klaus Schwab and others have said that we are likely to get right now. About 2 years ago, said in the next 2 years we are likely to have a cyber event that makes CV looks like a common cold. If that does happen, that's going to screw up a lot of things, but mainly our infrastructure. And our infrastructure is the reason why you can just go into urgent care and go into a pharmacy and get these things. These things will be the first thing to go, especially if we get into a war with China. marfooglenews.com/Jace, Jase, and make sure to use the code MARF. You're not only helping save independent journalism at Marfoogle News, but you are also getting a savings, and you are helping yourself prepare for any event. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. It could be a storm. It could be a flood. It could be a fire. Whatever it may be, you're prepared. marfooglenews.com/Jace, code MARF. Again, give us credit and get yourself a discount at the same time. And then Trump says U.S. will take over the Strip after relocating all of the Palestinians. Dex.
This is huge, right? So this is a really big deal. So he was speaking in the White House. He had Netanyahu there. He was standing right next to him. And here are some of the quotes. He goes, "The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip. We'll do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded booms and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed buildings. Level it out and create an economic development that will supply unlimited number of jobs and housings for the people of the area." He also said you just can't go back, after he was talking about relocating 2 million people there to other neighboring countries. You just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has been for 100 years. He said he would deploy the U.S. troops to the territory if it's necessary. Netanyahu also all but endorsed the idea. He said, "I think it's something that they could change, that could change history, and it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue." So, I don't know that the other countries around there are signing up to take on 2 million people, but think about this. This is a really, really big deal. If all of a sudden the Strip, which I know it's not huge, but it's 25 by 5 miles, if that becomes a U.S. territory, because I go back to the statement, he says, we will own it. Own it. We will own that. We will own that land. The U.S. will. That means it will be a U.S. territory, if not eventually a state. I don't know if it'll ever be a state, but it'll definitely be a territory. And having a U.S. territory in the Middle East is a game changer for lots of reasons. If just think about the threat it poses to those that don't like the U.S. Just imagine those that are constantly shooting things into Israel are also then going to be shooting them into a U.S. territory, and we'll have the U.S. military instantly there to respond in addition to the IDF.
I mean, this is one of the biggest things that's been said so far. You're talking about the Strip, one of the most contentious, debated areas in the world, and he says it in plain words. We'll own it and be responsible for it. This is going to be a big deal as far as specifically being asked about troops. Says if it is necessary, which I'm pretty sure it will be. So we're talking about U.S. troops, and again, I don't know how much lead time some of the troops, because this is actually what Fugel fam military members said, and something akin to what the submariner I just talked to said. Did people know this a few weeks ago? Because this has been something I have heard. I wouldn't even repeat something this crazy. Rumors about the Strip having U.S. soldiers in it for a couple weeks now before he made these statements. So I just wonder, how long ago did he kind of come up with this idea? It wasn't spur of the moment. He said for months he researched it and everything else. Did top brass know about this, weeks and weeks ago? I assume that would make sense, but man, if that's already trickled down, I'm surprised that this didn't leak earlier. Or maybe that's why it's being said right now, is because so many people have talked about this. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, some additional quotes. He was doubling down on the messaging about the relocation of the Palestinians from that area, and he says they wouldn't want to go back after they're being relocated. He said, He said they don't. He doesn't expect them to want to go back to this location. He says he does see a long-term ownership position. And he then goes on to say, everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land. Developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. And he said, I've studied this very closely over a lot of months. So this has been in the works, as you just said.
And it, again, you can't have a Donald quote without magnificent. So if you saw some of the images, a lot of them are part of propaganda things. But, I mean, if you've seen some of the different areas of the Strip, it is crazy how small it is. I didn't even know it was 25. I thought it was 20 miles long. But 25 miles long, there was some areas that looked like a resort before all of the explosions started. But some of these places were really, really pretty. Palm trees and beautiful architecture and looked like fun in the sun. And then they, of course, in the videos, they show before and after all of the explosions, right? So, what is the long-term plan for this? And if they're relocating, where are those people going to go? Dex, that was another thing we talked about. Obviously, they're not going to Egypt. Egypt said no. A bunch of people said no. So where are they going?
Where are they going to go? That's the big question. But look, Syria is an option. I mean, we just kicked Iran out of there. Doesn't sound like Jordan and Egypt want them. At least that's what they've said in the past. They could change their tune if there was an opportunity or a reason. And then the other thing that a lot of people are talking about is this age-old project that had been talked about for many years from back in the day. I think from the 60s, if I remember correctly. It was actually a classified project, but then became public in '96, called the Ben Gurion Canal, which would actually go right near the Strip. I think it's just a hair north of it, and it would connect over to one of the gulfs there, the smaller gulf to the right that comes down to the Red Sea. So it'd be a second canal. I wouldn't call it competing, but alleviating traffic there with the Suez Canal. So some people are suggesting that there's a much bigger play in potentially building that because of the possibility of having the world have a major problem if the Suez Canal collapses or falls under the wrong hands.
Yeah, a lot's about to change. If you want to know the full updates, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to all. That's your agreement with the platform saying, hey, I want to see every video, not some. By default, if you've just subscribed, understand that almost every channel you subscribe to, it is on default by some. So you might get their video, you might not. But if you're going to the step of subscribing, then most likely you did that for a reason. You've gone that far the step of doing the subscribe. You probably want to see their stuff. It's crazy how it works that way, but a few years ago it changed, and a lot of people do not get notifications for us. Make sure to do that at the very least. And if you are still not getting notified on time, make sure to sign up for our notifications. You can go to marfooglenews.com, and you can go to the anywhere. Actually, it will pop up the first time. It will say, would you like notifications? Now, normally I turn these off. Any website I go to, if I go to the Washington Post, I say, no, I don't want notifications. But all our notifications are, if you click that on the browser one, that's going to let you know when we go live. So you'll get a thing at the top of your phone saying, Marfoogle's live. That's it. But also you can go to alerts at the top. That bar, that will allow you to sign up for alerts. You can actually sign up for our email list as well. And all that needs is a simple email. You can do those Proton mails. You can do whatever mail you want. We're the only thing we need is an email for us to get a hold of you. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to go back to this idea of owning the Strip. If you think about the big picture, since Trump has taken office, I mean, he wants Greenland, he wants the Panama Canal, he wants the Strip, and potentially even wants Canada, although he hasn't said he wants to take it. He just said they could join the Union, so to speak, if they want to get out of tariffs or not deal with their government and the funding that America has to do to support them, apparently, that he's claiming. So it certainly is an interesting time to say, wow, look at America trying to take greater land positions in the globe. And why is that happening? And what are we getting prepared for? And why now versus any of the prior presidents before?
Yeah. What does Donald see that we don't? What is in the briefings that we're missing out on? I believe it's, if you see a war coming up, that a lot of these actions actually directly make sense. That if you know that there is going to be a big European war, and that the U.S. is possibly going to be sitting out the first part, much like World War II and much like World War I, that you are going to be stacking your cards and you're going to be trying to make sure that you have everything in line. If you look at all of the other countries, they are doing the same. All of our adversaries, they are preparing for a war in many ways. BRICS in itself is a preparation for war. They're talking about, creating new currencies because after all of this goes down, the oil petrodollar, where is that going to be? If you really think about it, the petrodollar in general, the thing that runs the planet, is going to be a thing of the past in a few years, right? I mean, we're literally trying to move off of petrol onto electric everything. If that's the case, how do you change a global system that is still dependent on petrol, on oil? And I would guarantee you a big part of this is all of the countries that produce oil. All of these Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, everything else. And you can even see if there is something going on, moving of what's going to be the world currency, you would see things like just a few years ago when Saudi Arabia wouldn't answer our calls, but were rolling out the red carpet for Xi Jinping. Saudi Arabia has always been, this ally of, they've always been kind, and we've done a lot of business with Saudi Arabia. On the other end of it, Saudi Arabia, they still, take people out. Saudi Arabia is also the same country that, 23 out of 24 of the bad guys on the plane was from, all that jazz. So they also have a lot of ties with three-letter agencies and all of this. But when you look at all of the oil countries and how they've been acting, they're acting like there's about to be a massive change. And I think it's pretty simple to see what that change is going to be. Again, everybody is going to be after lithium. Our target has now changed, considering if this is really going to go through and they're going to say, we're no more oil, no more fossil fuels, then how does that change the world structure? The current people that have all the money are the oil tycoons, the oil families, the oil countries. How useful will they be in a future where we don't use any? they're probably making power plays as well. And they are putting their money where their mouth is, and they're causing ruckuses as well. I would not be surprised in 50 years if we find out all sorts of unclassified stuff that Saudi Arabia and all of these other countries were directly putting money in the hands of people that were making world history-changing moves. Because look at what's going on. Anytime money is threatened, anytime a resource is threatened, that's when we get war. And that's exactly what's happening right now. You have, of course, the U.S. talking about grabbing Greenland, talking about going down and controlling Panama. It's almost like China backed up off the Panama thing because they already know something bigger is coming. You have, of course, Iran and Israel. You have, of course, Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine, we'll talk about here in a second. Donald said something to them, too, about their resources, which totally confirms exactly what we've been talking about lithium and all of these things for the next age. You've got North Korea and South Korea. South Korea, big moves are being made. South Korean president was arrested and taken out of the presidential palace. Still not as much about it as I would like. And then, of course, China, Taiwan, and then the U.S. involved in all of these different trade wars, and now the tariffs. We're about to be, 24/7 saying buckle up right now, because it's about to get crazy. And all of you that have prepped all these years and didn't fall for the false calms and the false highs, you've been steady prepping. I think that you will really thank yourself. And I think that, again, part of my purpose, if all of us even have a purpose, I think my purpose was just to get people prepared. And I really think that a lot of you, that's your purpose too. You're there to get your family and friends prepared. So I don't think it's the end of the world, but I do think it's the beginning of a new one. A very, very, very crazy one. Dex, do you want to go over the next one? I'm going to have to actually reload something here.
Yeah, certainly. This is, yet again, another really big deal. But, we've got the U.S. Air Force is now over, or has been allegedly flying over Mexican or entering Mexico's airspace. So the official reports are they were flying by the border, but now which is also kind of unprecedented at this point. But some are suggesting and looking at flight paths and other things that they've actually entered Mexican airspace. And obviously this would be part of this new cooperation from the Mexican president and with the U.S. Related to the cartels. But they're suggesting or saying that these are intelligence aircraft, so signal intelligence aircraft, probably looking at mapping out, gathering digital transmissions and all of the details and data that they can get from the cartels and where they are and what they're doing. So I imagine if you're a cartel right now, this is a really big deal to know that the U.S. military is now overhead. Because the tech, it's one thing that, they may have their armored vehicles and their, fancy weapons, but the U.S. military brings it to a whole different level and definitely escalates the game with them.
This is a giant deal. So you're a cartel in Mexico. All of a sudden, you've got Predator drones flying overhead. You've got intelligence planes flying by. They're mapping everything. The cartels are going to make big moves in the next couple weeks too. I guarantee it. I have a thought that, but down in Texas and in the border areas, we're about to see probably overlooked stories of some crazy things happening, especially in some of the border towns where you already had border towns of like Juarez that have these violent kind of events happen. I think that that's about to take a huge, uptick, and we're going to see all sorts of craziness happening. Because there's going to be, on their level, they're going to believe like, we're going to clap back at this. They're pissed. I guarantee you they're pissed right now. There is intelligence planes flying over Mexican cartel bosses right now. This is huge. This is huge. By the way, I want to take a pause for 1 second to thank everybody that's in the chat right now. Thank you, everybody that made it to the show. But more so, too, make sure to thank your mods. Your mods are awesome people. They are always here to help. remember to go subscribe to them over at marfooglenews.com/friends. You've got a great list, including Bobby Sue. Again, we've got to add Bobby Sue, but at the time she didn't have much of a channel there. But Bobby Sue is always an awesome help. Again, Ilea actually sent me a story that I forgot to get in the show today. It's an excellent story, if you catch my drift. It was about 100,000 eggs stolen. It was, it had a lot of exorbitant talk in it. It was Excelsior. That doesn't work at all. Dang it.
Was it an exquisite heist?
Oh, you dirty dog. You just totally stole it. You exquisitely stole it. But yeah, Dex, can we get that story though? I think it has a broader meaning though. And I think Ilea was very smart in seeing that. I think something is going on there. And you actually told me the story you saw, which was that even the Waffle House is now charging 50 cents per egg on top of all of the regular charges. This might be like a little silly thing that people really don't pay attention to, but understand the price of these things going up so crazy now. It is incredible where you have your essentials just skyrocketing. You see these events like the culling of the chickens just about a month and a half ago, where even if I went down my egg aisle and it said, egg supplies are very, very limited and limited one, dozen per person or 118 pack. It's like you're seeing this and you see the reason why is because of things we did. Almost all of these events have something you can trace it back to, and it's like we kind of did this to ourselves. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, get the links in up next.
Okay, just want to make sure I heard you out, Ilea. Thank you so much for sending all of the RAWs alerts and things like that. So thank you. Let me put this on screen, and then we'll go back to regularly scheduled news. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Tuesday that the high price of eggs directly related to a lack of chicken supply, which the JB administration contributed to. Pennsylvania State Police are scrambling, get this, to find 100,000 organic eggs that were stolen in a nighttime egg heist. An egg heist. What kind of world are we in where people are looking at high ticket items and they're like, let's go for the eggs? What? 100,000 eggs? Who is he going to sell it to? A cartoon character? Like Wile E. Coyote or something?
I bet there's a bajillion restaurants that'll buy those eggs in a heartbeat for a fraction of the cost that they're spending. Because just think about it's not just breakfast, right? It's all the protein, sauces and other other things, bakery, baked goods, anything that may have egg in it. Even making mayonnaise and things like that. All of that uses eggs, and especially mayonnaise uses quite a bit. So yeah, you're going to see those prices go up on all that, and you're also going to see people scrambling to keep their businesses open or having to tack on these prices like Waffle House did, 50 cents per egg on top of whatever the regular order is. So you go in and order, eggs and bacon, and you're going to pay an extra $1 for a pair of eggs.
And that 100,000 equaled retail about $40,000. But if you were to steal those, you would have to have customers waiting in line. I grew up on Aurora on Highway 99. There was always these guys, and this is no joke, straight out of a movie. This one guy was up on 130th. He would go into the Safeway or the Albertsons, and he would steal steaks. And he would straight up have them in plastic bags hanging in his jacket. It was so it's so off-putting in general when a guy goes like this with a trench coat and you see a ton of meat. Well, not a ton of meat. Maybe average meat. But you guys get what I'm saying. And it was I always thought, who's buying this? But then somebody would walk up and buy one because steaks are $10, $12, $15, $20, $30. And this was before all of the crazy stuff. This is years and 2 decades ago. And I'm thinking, who's going to buy a steak out of some dude's trench coat? but there's always somebody who wants to save $1. But who is this guy selling 100,000 eggs to? Or are we about to see some of the biggest houses in the world egged? Are we going to see Mr. Gates, Medina Mansion completely egglified? That's not even a word. You guys get my meaning. Yeah, 37% eggs are up. That's nuts. All right, and then, yeah, aircraft over Mexico, crazy. And then ahead.
Eggo waffles.
Eggo waffle?
Eggo waffles.
Eggo?
Kids eat those all the time. The frozen waffles.
Oh, those have eggs in them, don't they?
They do. They actually have. It's in the name, and it's true. Most things it's in the name.
I didn't know
it's not
that's
true,
why.
But yeah, Eggo waffles actually contain eggs.
Why am I having like a moment right now? Lego my Eggo. Oh my gosh, I did not know that. Well, I didn't think about it. Yeah, waffles and pancakes. Pancakes use eggs too, right?
Yeah, similar batter. Yeah.
So
usually
all baked
you always
goods.
throw eggs in them.
There's so many things with the egg base that everything. If you screw over eggs, you screw over everything. And then U.S. and Philippine fighter jets. Aircraft jointly patrol disputed shoal region guarded by China. Real quick, Wally, thank you for the super thanks on that last show, the last 48 wild developments. And then 2025, the year it all begins, Mad Max, thank you for the super thanks on that show. Says I was referring to supposedly what was a training of continuity of government run helicopter possibly playing into the VIP transport and then could have possibly been ran by AI with human intervention if needed. I thought it was quite a coincidence that they've been nuclear training in New York and then all the other plane incidents going on around the world, including Germany. A lot of weird stuff. Love your channel. Been watching it for quite some time. Just subscribe. Hey, well, Mad Max, I'm glad you finally took the time and hit the subscribe button. But if you did, make sure to hit the all notification bell button. And then thank you, Bill Fortenberry. Thank you for the super. I appreciate that. Thank you, last show. And then Olga Turan. Thank you so much for the support today. Thank you for the super sticker. Matt Burgess. Thank you for the pie. The pie sticker there. And then Bandy Bear. Thank you, and thank you. Bandy and Olga, thank you guys. Really appreciate that. Dex, do you want to go over U.S. and the Philippines in this joint patrol thing?
Yeah, get this. So we have a U.S. Air Force B-1 bomber aircraft and Philippines Air Force FA-50 fighter jets doing a joint patrol. Also, it's training, but they're also now participating in the patrolling of those islands together. So definitely escalating the show of force, the show of strength to China, who's been, I guess the last big thing we heard from them was rolling out the largest ship ever in that area with their Coast Guard. So got to keep an eye on the Philippines, especially as it relates to China and these disputed regions.
And especially when there's so many distractions and so many things happening worldwide, something like an event in the Philippines could go overlooked. Anytime you have these joint patrols, you also have the window for some sort of accident to happen or some sort of mistake, or they accidentally fire on somebody. So yeah, again, that joint patrol, we always keep a watch on not only joint patrols, but press conferences, DOD conferences, White House conferences, even patents. And remember, you guys are a part of that. If you see a weird patent that was just filed, or if you see a weird drill that's going on in Kansas or something like that, let us know, because you guys are our eyes and feelers. So if you see something that's weird, if you see something, say something, but don't say it to anybody else. Just say it to us. If you see something, say something to us. Only us. But and your family, if it's like a safety issue. Well, and your coworkers too, like if it affects them. And like the guy across the street, if you happen to meet him at like the mailbox or something, but mainly to us and to nobody else. Nobody. Maybe the van pool too. Like you got to have something to talk about. And if you run into people walking your dog or something, You guys get it. And before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is our device that we recommend that you can actually protect not only your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, gas, and solar against an EMP strike. It will also protect you against a Carrington-level event from the sun. This is an incredible device. Again, I think that it will save lives, and in the end, this is something that you will end up thanking yourself for, because it is not something that you're going to use every day, but when you do use it, it's going to be something that will literally be the difference of being able to get out to bug out or get home to bug in. If you work far from home, then this is a very smart idea, because it's going to protect you against not only EMP strikes from adversaries, but a Carrington-level event from the sun, which will happen at some point. And it's a matter of if we have ourselves as vulnerable as we are now. Again, they are trying to harden the grid right now, but we are nowhere close. Again, this is a device that will ground the signal of an EMP strike and multiple EMP strikes in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and everything else. It's very easy to put in. A lot of people are put off by the fact that they have to install this. It's red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground, and then bolt it into the side of your chassis and you're good. You don't need a mechanic. You don't need somebody smarter than you to do this. Again, I always get these emails saying, well, I need to have somebody smart do this, or I need a handyman. You don't need a handyman for this. I promise you, 5-minute YouTube video, or even go watch Survival Living's video or any of the other people that have put up videos of installing this, and we might actually put one up here soon too, is very easy. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. The same companies outfitted agencies like DHS, DOD, and they are on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. This is Keystone military-tested technology, so make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. More so than ever, though, if you actually know the people that run it, they are people from the prepper community. The people before this, like even one of the people that founded this, used to actually do little YouTube videos when he could. They are a very big company now, and that is because of all of the government contracts. At one point, we didn't even know if they were going to continue selling to regular people because they had these giant contracts, monster contracts. But the initiative behind this, they really truly do care about people. Anybody who has dealt with EMP Shield knows this. You've had the founder freaking walking somebody through installation on the phone. I mean, like, that's the kind of company it is. They've done Christmas videos for us. They are very, very cool. You'll notice that we don't have a rotating thing of 50 different affiliates. The affiliates that we do have, we truly believe in. And I know that in 5 years from now, somebody's not going to come back and be like, oh, look at you, Shield, for this. No, I didn't. We could make a better living if we had 50,000 products rotate concurrently every single day, but we don't. And again, it's not it's part stubbornness and part that I don't ever want to be attached to something that's horrible. So marfooglenews.com/EMP, make sure to use the code MARF. I also want to save lives, so go to marfooglenews again .com/EMP, code MARF. All right. And then FBI turns over details of 5,000 employees who worked on the 6th cases to Donald and his administrations and the Justice Department. 5,000. So, Dex, 5,000, what percentage of the FBI is that? I mean, how many employees do they have?
It's a lot. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 38%. I can't remember if it's like 13,000 employees. Yeah, 13,000 agents. Just over 13,000. So yeah, that's a huge number of employees when you think about it. I guess there's 38,000 total employees, but 13,000 agents, and 5,000 were sent in. So depending on how you look at it, it's still no matter which way you look at it, it's still a significant number of employees that were sent in.
So understand that 5,000 out of 13,000 were in some way involved in this whole thing, in the whole debacle that lie within, right? They have compiled, FBI officials have compiled with demands to provide the Justice Department with details of the thousands of employees who worked on investigations related to the 6th, 2021, Capitol event, according to people familiar with the situation. And remember, this one, and I always try to call out when it comes from either Fox or CNN. Both, you never know what you're going to get, or you get exclusive stories that are like exclusive or just straight up made up or, paid to play. But again, it says the demand has caused consternation among FBI employees who fear it is meant to amass a list of personnel for possible termination by the T-Man administration. They even mentioned that, hey, if you put all these names out there, you're opening the door for doxing and swatting and all of these things, which I was surprised they said doxing and swatting. Basically, a lot of people are going to be pissed off at these people, especially with now how this has been, taken. He has now pardoned all the people that were involved, which, gosh, imagine having years of your life, have all that stuff, and then have it wiped away. I bet it would feel good, but at the same time, it's like many people believe that the people that were involved there that have been charged, that never broke anything, that never did anything besides walk through, there's a lot of people that are pretty pissed off about that. Dex, go ahead.
They also, they also included photographs of each one of them, and they all seem to be wearing the same khaki pants and golf shirts.
Okay. I know you're joking. Right?
Sorta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, okay, yeah. And they all, what is it, nightlight? Or how do you say they daylight? Is it daylight or nightlight? When you have like a night job, is it daylight?
Moonlighting.
Moonlighting, and they all moonlight as extremists too, in their same outfits. And they do they hop into vans and hop into parades. But yeah, I mean, this is a big deal, and we'll see what ends up coming of it, and we will fill you in on the rest. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. I appreciate that. Callie, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for supporting. And then Kremlin reacts to Donald's proposal to aid Ukraine in exchange for resources. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, real quick before we move on to that, speaking of three-letter agencies, this just came out too. They've been doing these buyout offers for government employees, and they're trying, Doge and others are trying to, get rid of a lot of people that they don't need, and they've been offering them it's 8 months or something of pay with benefits, basically through September, if they accept the buyout. They can walk out. Well, apparently they just announced that they are now offering that buyout to all employees, its entire workforce of the CIA. So that may yield something interesting to see. That's a huge number of people, and that's a very interesting organization when you think about it. But they get this opportunity. Now, will they take it or not? I guess the question comes down to, do you think you're going to get ousted and you want to get a nice big fat buyout or severance, as you would call it in the traditional world? Or do they want to roll the dice and see if they keep their jobs?
Wow. So, and what I think is crazy, and I think most of you probably think this is crazy too, speaking of just the last admin and this admin, the fact that 15 minutes before JB left, he pardoned all of these people and pardoned them. Did we ever find out if it was for a huge chunk of time? Like pardoning, Oh,
yeah, the time was all based on whatever was needed to cover them. So it all varied. But yes, like Dr. F went all the way back to before GOF started. So, yeah.
Which, I mean, that should be an obvious thing no matter who you supported or who you dropped your ballot for. It should be a big deal to see that. That seems, but I guess their narrative is that, oh, well, these people haven't done anything wrong, and the second that he comes in, he's just going to find something to pin on him, which you can do. Like if you're in the government, you can totally find something to pin on somebody. I'm pretty sure Donald knows that for sure. But really, a lot of it, it's like there's a lot of stuff there that's just factual that they could have pinned on these people. And how do you do that? Like, how do you just clear people of all of that? They cleared all these people. And then the second he comes in, he ends up pardoning all sorts of the folks from the 6. So you have two opposite sides pardoning everybody that they believe are innocent. At what point, like, do we even know, like, I mean, think about it. When you're a little kid, you're trying to figure out what good versus bad is, right? You know, like what wrong versus right is. And at this point, you have people split down the middle on what is actual right and wrong. It's not, it's literally wrong and right is a completely different thing for the left and the right. The old and the new, the old and the young, this color and that color. Like, there's so many branching kind of ways that wrong versus right goes now. I mean, if you think about it too, over the last few years, myself versus someone, say, of color, we might have completely different views on what wrong and right is. I mean, heck, a lot of the stuff I see as far as judging people purely based on the color of their skin, and that goes anyway, I think that's horrid. That's hellacious. And it's 2025. We're supposedly the most civilized society in the planet, but yet we're still going, oh, color, bad, color, good, color does this, stereotype here. It's like, it's insane. Are we ever going to evolve? I don't know, not with governments of the world like this. And then Kremlin rejects the Team Hand's proposal to aid Ukraine in exchange for resources. So how does this all work? Again, we talked about this earlier with like all of the changeover from petrodollar to now the lithium dollar. What's going on with this?
Exactly. So look, earlier Trump said he was interested in making a deal with Ukraine to continue funding and things like that, but he wanted it in exchange for the rare earth minerals that are coming out of there. So he wanted the extraction of uranium, titanium, and lithium. So he was sort of saying, if we're going to keep sending you anything, we got to get something back in exchange. This can't just be we're donating money to you. So Dmitry Peskov, spokesperson for the Russian leader Vladimir Putin, has dismissed the president's proposal to aid Ukraine in exchange for access to rare earth resources, calling it an attempt to buy assistance. So he says, if we call things by their name, this is essentially a proposal to buy assistance, shifting it from free aid to a commercial arrangement. Of course, it would be better not to provide any aid at all, as that would help us bring this conflict to an end, he said. So Russia not happy with it. Obviously, they don't want to see the continuation. They want this to end. And I think, again, when you think about the negotiation tactics, I don't know, on one hand, it's good. Okay, well, if we're going to dump money into the country there and continue the war, let's at least get something back in return. But I also think this is probably one of those areas that sort of helps set the stage for the negotiations that are supposed to be coming between Trump and Putin, as far as what do they do to de-escalate or end the conflict.
Yeah, or we could just keep giving them money for free. Just I think the best option is, especially to Zelensky. I don't know why. I've always liked him. I think, like, if he was on one of those swipe apps, I would definitely swipe right. I would just be like, wow, that guy's really cool. Even if I didn't know he was president, I would just say, this guy, there's something about him. I would say, oh, you got something here, but because he's a little bit of that on the picture, but I would totally swipe right, because I think that in general, Ukraine has U.S.'s interests in their best heart. Like they really do care about us, especially Zelensky, him and the 9 closest people underneath him. They all have our best interest at heart. And we have to remember that when we think about giving our hard-earned tax dollars to them. $billion defense system? I mean, would you give your family and your grandson a Patriot missile system? Of course you would. Same thing applies here. He is our grandson. And we need to give them Patriot missiles. It's just... That's how it is. If you're new here, just know I fully believe that all of our tax dollars, not some, should go towards Ukraine. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments down below. Sarcasm. And Super Bowl 2025 will have another guest. This is crazy. So me and Dex looked up the amount of people that can be in this. And this is the Superdome. Kind of full circle if you think about it. The Superdome, known in the city, right? The same city that it took them 5 days to get water to the Superdome. 5 days did it take drinking water to get to the Superdome during Hurricane Katrina, one of the worst natural disasters in our history. People were supposed to go there to be safe, but yet 5 days went by. People perished in the freeways right outside. In fact, on this map right here, if you actually look, right here, people were perishing on the entrances, and people lost family members because they didn't have food, water, nothing. 5 days went by. So the government response in that city was so bad, and the whole thing was just an absolute disaster. Everybody in the Superdome obviously was in a really bad spot. We heard a really great story, by the way. If you want to go back, there was a caller named Able Bodied. She's been a part of the Fugel fam for a very long time. She told us her story as a nurse actively working during Hurricane Katrina, and it brought tears to people's eyes. So do go check that out. Not to veer off, but it is all related, right? So now the Superdome is going to be hosting the Super Bowl. And the Superdome is, how many people did we say? For wrestling, they had as many as 78,000 people in it. But for football, how many people did it say? Wasn't it?
I think it was between 73 and 76,000, depending on the configuration.
Which is a huge amount of people. Some of the biggest stadiums are 50,000 people. 76,000 people, or 70, just call it 70,000, 65,000 if it wasn't fully sold out. 60,000, that's a lot of people. And apparently the Dawn is going to make it to that game. What is the first thing that you guys think about? I'm thinking this is nuts. So especially for me, who has read about all of these different DoD things that they're asking small businesses for, like rapidly deployable checkpoints, these wearable devices that can detect nuclear fission for big, large events like this, having these new cameras that can potentially detect different traces of explosives and things like this, all of which are because they have this huge threat of big events like this having an event happen. And now we're going to have the Donald come to this thing. Either this is going to be one of the safest football games ever, or a powder keg. I guess I personally think this is not a good place for the president to go, no matter how prepared they are. What do you think, Dex?
I mean, look, it's a big target. Now, at the same time, it's probably going to have just an unfathomable amount of security, given what just happened there recently with that event. But at the same time, layer in the fact that the sitting president, first ever sitting president to attend a Super Bowl, shows up. I imagine security is going to be even tighter. But at the same time, if something does go wrong or something does happen, imagine the kind of mayhem that is going to go on with the attempt to protect the president, let alone the fact that there's that many people there, as well as the giant target that it paints.
And again, this is something, as Dex just said, has not happened before. Probably because of the likely reason. And I wonder, are they saying this so far ahead so they can get chatter back? Have you thought about that, Dex? Like, what if they're saying this so then out in the world they can then listen for, the three-letter agencies now can listen to all the phones, and if somebody's talking about this, they'll hone in on it. Like something like this, what if they're using this as an event to try to grab people that are trying to take him out? Like they're making it super public. He's going to be at this big, big event. This would be the perfect event, I would think, for a bad guy to try to do something horrid. What if that's on purpose, though? What if he's not actually going? They just did this, and they say, oh, actually, they changed their mind. He's not going to go because of safety concerns. But in the meantime, you have bad guys then chattering. They're monitoring on every single phone across the planet, and they're easily able to pick out the Superdome or Super Bowl and find these guys.
Well, look, I don't think that it's going to necessarily be some medium level or low level team that pulls off something there. I think if something like this were to happen, it would have to be some sort of inside connection through, the highest levels that are doing something similar to the thoughts around what happened to JFK and how everybody thinks that, it wasn't just a random person. It was actually, orchestrated by 3-letter agencies or other, people of that ilk. So if you see something, if something does happen there, I would first look to a bigger organization doing something versus, some guy who crossed the border with a backpack full of something bad. Because the amount of the layers of security here and the amount of planning that would have to go in to infiltrate a location like this would be pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean that's a massive undertaking to be able to vet all of those people too. How did they even do that with that many people? Do they have to vet all 75,000 people? Is that how does an event like that work with the president?
When he's attended other sporting events like that, it's usually in one of those suite boxes, and I think they would more than likely reinforce it and more than likely vet off an area there that has access to, and that's where they would vet the people that are in and out of that box.
Huh. Well, again, let's do a quick survey in the chat. Whether you're a fan of him or not, do you think you love him, you hate him? Do you think any president should be at a Super Bowl like this? I mean, we should be specific because it is the Donald. He's already had 2 attempts on his life. Press 1 for yes. You think he should show up at the Super Bowl, or 2 for no? Do you think or 3 your own answer? Maybe not the best idea. Something like that. 1 for yes, Super Bowl, and I bet a lot of Patriots are going to say, hell yeah, show them that you can go to that. A lot of other people will say, hey, we don't want to lose this guy. 2, no. Got a lot of 2s and 3s, a few 1s. Like, I see the view of 1, too. I mean, it's pretty badass having the president. He might even go up on stage. I bet you he's going to be part of the halftime show or something. So how do you look at an event like that? Also, it is such a massive event. It is just such a big, big thing. Don does what he does. Yes, Weechie. Janine Cheney, not a good idea to be that exposed. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I think that's what I think. I think this is like for that kind of event. That's a bbig deal.
Sean, I highly doubt he'll leave the box.
There's a lot of 2s in here too. So when I first heard that, I mean, you heard my response. I was like, what the hell? Are you serious? I just think that's kind of crazy. And then Jeffrey Woolidge, nice to see you. Danny P, ridiculous for everyone. Well, and think about what a person that's going to the Super Bowl, it might be the one Super Bowl. I mean, Super Bowls are such a freaking crazy thing. I've never been to one. I probably will never be to a Super Bowl. Aren't basic tickets to a Super Bowl like super, super, super duper expensive? Like no matter where you are? Or am I wrong? I've never been to one.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Okay, so...
They go hand in hand with the name. They're super.
They're super. So these are super tickets, okay? What if it changes the experience for you as a fan, right? All of a sudden now you can't bring certain things, or if the second you start hanging back beers or something, they kick you out for intoxication because they're worried about the president or something. I just wonder how this will change things for in general. If you're rowdy, are you going to have Secret Service coming down and going, are you rowdy because you're happy or are you rowdy because you're mad? They'll bring like ink blots and they'll be like, what is this? And the guy will be like, to a butterfly? No, wrong. You're out of here. I don't know. Wonder 123474. I think I got that right. Well, I would not go to that game. No way, no how, no hell, or in hell. I bet there's a lot of people just like you. I bet there's people that once they hear he's going, they are going to give their Super Bowl tickets to somebody else because of the worry about getting hurt or something happening. But I would say, again, from that other angle, are we going to let the bad guys decide what we do and stop us from doing what we love or, stop us from going out? Anytime there's been huge threats, especially in the U.S. where they've put out these alerts and things, we have been pretty uniform. We say don't stop somebody from stopping you from going out. Like, go live your life. Or if there's been a date where they say, oh, something's going to happen, we still say go have your fun. Don't let that's the whole point of some of these things, the rumors of bad events happening, especially here in the U.S. It's to stop us. It's to scare us. We don't need to show that we're scared. But with this is a big deal because this is the Super Bowl. Wages World, only tickets not bought years in advance are season ticket holders get option to seat before anyone else. Yeah, good point. And then Rip Curl Readiness, Shastina, nice to see you guys. Some names in green there. Thank you, Danawa. Thank you. Appreciate that. Brian and Debbie McCartney. Thank you, Ian Jones. I am Smart Dust. It's pretty extravagant. Extravagant. We're on the same page. Excellent. Meet Bubba 007, Rapture Ready, The Major, Jonathan Floming. Nice to see. Thank you guys. WIS Jen, Jiggity. Not going to say that next one. And then Springfield Sun, nice to see you. The Highway, Keto Mama, and Peppermint Patty. Thank you guys. Go Eagles. Nice. Thank you guys, and appreciate everybody that just popped in to say hi. All right. Back to the news. We have rank insubordination. Rubio says that U.S. aid full of rogue employees. And we'll go a little bit deeper about how they say they're wasting your money. And this is a big thing, too, because now they have gone in and said that U.S. aid is essentially plagued with just giving away money to the wrong places. And once they give it away, they don't even know if it goes even to the right place. Dex, do you want to go over what they said about rank subordination and what's going on with all these rogue employees?
Yeah, I think I just heard too that they said now all the employees everywhere are being called back. They're all suspended because all the funding is shut off. It's over. The game over for USAID. But billions of dollars, some to the tune of 2025. I think the budget was $30 billion per year has been going out for all sorts of things. Like even I saw somewhere that said we were through USAID, we were even funding the BBC, as if we don't fund NPR and PBS enough, but we were even funding the BBC through that as well. So lots of money going to lots of different people and lots of different areas that just don't make any sense, including those latest tactics that are now fallen out of the limelight, so to speak, with the hiring principles. So all of that, not just in America, but literally out of America and all other countries and all of other places, millions and millions of dollars being spent and sent. And it's interesting too when you look at it. I just listened to one interview with somebody out of Africa that was talking about how the money was important for them, but they also said, we realize that what the amount of money we get, like for every dollar they actually got in their hands, there was probably $10 or $20 that really started before then, but because of corruption and everything else, it had to take all of that money before it ever reached to a person to even give them a benefit of a dollar. It was so much money lost between administration, and then when it hits, say, an African country, it goes into its government, which then takes chunks and chunks of all the money for all of its other reasons, and then maybe a few pennies works its way down to the actual aid that it was supposed to go to. So just billions of dollars being wasted everywhere.
And just remember, this is money that they're basically cutting off the top of everybody who earns it. So it does make a lot of people pretty angry to see that. And this is the crazy thing too. Think about how they're publicly saying what they find. They're like, hey, for the last so many years, they've basically been wasting your money. It's infuriating. And I just wonder if the angle next from those that are trying to make this look bad is that all of this is going to trigger people to get angry or do something bad, right? That they'll say, oh, now the biggest threat is, Bob and Steve down the street because they're mad about how their money was spent. I could see that happening as well. Now, Rip Curl said a good comment about the whole Super Bowl thing, too, by the way. It says, yeah, that sounds like a Secret Service nightmare, and it might even hurt sales. Bobby Sue says, I once dated somebody that had tickets to the Rose Bowl. Yeah, I've never been to one of those either. Those are big deal as well. Gerald Wilson, Steph, and then some people were putting in the rough prices like $2,500. Somebody said $3,300 average price for a Super Bowl ticket, something like that. I guess it depends on who's playing. The last time I cared, it was when the Seahawks were in it, and of course, that was a ref's game. And if you haven't already, make sure to go check out Grid Down Bug Out. Again, I have mine now. I'm going to be doing a video on this because it is so insane to really put this in perspective. So one thing that I do believe people cannot get a idea of is how big this is. At the same time, it's not unwieldy. So the Grid Down, again, the main unit is... I guess the few comparisons I have is it's about 2 or 3 times bigger than a lot of the 1,000-watt alternatives, but it is about this big by this big. But because it's the lithium iron phosphate, it's I want to say it's about the same weight as some of the competitors with, say, a fourth of the battery. It is an incredible system. The main system has it really almost a phone size, nice color screen, and I cannot believe how many different things it actually has that it portrays on that screen. Things that I didn't think I needed until I had one. Like the different screens when you're flipping from thing to thing, it actually shows you what is going on. Whereas normally you just kind of get blinking lights that tell you different statuses and you go, oh, 4 blinks, what does that mean? So this is an awesome, awesome system. Again, it is built like a tank. The quality of the thing is absolutely unheard of. The top of the main unit actually has like this rubber pad. You can kind of see it here, but it's like a built-in rubber pad for, say, if you didn't have the XP extra battery. I mean, this thing, you could literally use that as a table. This thing is absolutely unbelievably awesome as far as how fast it can charge because of the lithium iron phosphate. From the wall, you can charge it. I believe they said, here it says 2.3 hours. I think with the XP, it's 4 hours. But even that, 4,300 watt hours if you do get the one with the XP on it. That's insane. Now, as far as the panels, too, you can hook these up to solar panels. This is a solar generator, meaning you can get power from the sun if you connect it up to solar panels, which are very easy to get now. You can get folding panels, you can get their panels, you can get any kind of panels. Or you can charge it from your wall and have it ready to go. With this much power, if you do get the one we suggest with 4.29 kilowatt hours, you have power stored, ready to go. When the lights go out, you've got a massive, massive storage of power there. Again, very, very cool system. Make sure to go check it out. marfooglenews.com/bugout. Make sure to use the code MARF. Not only will you save money, but you will help us out as well. Again, you can also just get the main unit, which has 1.61 kilowatt hours or 1,600 kilowatt hours, all of these are EMP shield protected. So that is another cool thing, is each one of these packages, doesn't matter which one, you are going to get one that is EMP shield protected, that you know is going to last through multiple EMP strikes, that's going to keep going after a Carrington level event, and it is all included. So go to marfooglenews.com/bugout. They also have the readouts down here. If you wanted to do your whole house, they have a solution. They have the walls. So these walls, these hybrid inverters, these things are absolutely awesome too. I do not have one of these, but again, if they are anything like the quality of the main grid down bug outs, then I would say go right ahead. Awesome customer service. Go check them out. marfooglenews.com/bugout. Make sure to use the code MARF. And again, we waited a very long time to have a high capacity one like this. Again, right there. Again, 6,000 peak, 3,000 continuous. It even has a 30 amp port right in the back. So if you are RVing or if you're a van lifer, very, very cool. Built right into the back. All right. Again, Rashid says, egg me to stop. Steph, thanks. Lisa, Patty Angel, 64. Go, but worried. Pray for protection for our president. So Patty Angel, great comment, says he should be able to go, but worried. Please pray for protection over our president. I think a lot of people are going to be exactly in your spot where they say that, you know, any president should be able to go to the Super Bowl. But where are we at? The fact that so many twos were popped up that said, hey, this is not a good idea. What world do we live in right now where there are so many people that says, hey, bad idea? Obviously, it's a pretty tumultuous one if that's the case. Dexter Dominus, thank you for being here. Frost Kitten Games would be once in a lifetime experience. So egg puns are totally acceptable today, but after today, it will be exactly not allowed. It will not be exactly allowed. Egg loud. Egg loud. It will not exactly be egg loud. Egg loud. Egg loud. That almost works. Egg loud. Egg loud. You guys get the point. Awakened. Thank you. Awakened Trust still banking on a war. Jokes. If it doesn't happen, at least we won't be here about EMP shield anymore. So Awakened, like many others, I bet that there's going to be a lot of people that really get hit right in the backside with that. So yeah, I'm not only banking on a war, I will put my life on it. And I don't know what in the signs around the world of all of the different land grabs that are going on right now that tells people that there isn't going to be a war. I think that that's wishful thinking and almost blissful ignorance. But again, everybody has their opinion. Luminescence, thank you. Appreciate that. Callie, Rashid, Alan G, The Highway, and so many more. Thank you guys for coming today. And by the way, if I would love to do a spaces. I would love for somebody to debate me on why they believe that we will not go to war. I will gladly debate and bring up all the reasons I believe that not only are we going to war, that if at anything, we have had slight delays to that war, but we have not stopped it. I do not believe with this president or any other president that it was going to be stopped. They have to bring in a completely different order. And if you understand how much they have to change things for a different currency and a different, basis for our currency, then you have to understand things have to change drastically. Thank you so much to Callie. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff B. Thank you. I appreciate that. Meatpapa 007. Thank you. Says maybe some of all fears situation. Hopefully not. Yeah, very much so. Hopefully not as well. Thank you, Matt Burgess. Thank you, Bandy Bear. Looks like Olga, Turan, Bandy Bear, and Callie are all three-way ties for top supporter tonight. Thank you. And a couple new members. Again, thank you, and thank you. Darren, I appreciate that. Caleb Jade, Jonathan Fish this week. Bobby Sue Fry, again, thank you. Pure Effin' Chaos, Jesse McClanahan. Susan, thank you for continuing to be a member. Again, thank you. And Fab Welder 1. Thank you, everybody that has stopped by tonight. Dex, thank you for your service today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And make sure to join us again tomorrow for the rest of the story. Thank you, everybody that made it. Thank you for the close to 3,000 that were here all show. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And for the plus 3,000 that have been making almost every show. So thank you guys. Love you. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. And again, it will be ported over to jams. Just stay in the chat if you want to join us. Everybody gonna have a birthday. Everyone gonna have a really good day. Whistle on the whistle on the whistle.